The first sound that broke the night was the soft metallic ping of an email notification sharp enough to cut through the quiet interior of Liam Ward's aging sedan. Rain tapped against the windshield in slow, uneven rhythms like a tired drummer trying to keep time. The heater groaned in the dashboard, pushing out air that was barely warm, carrying the faint scent of dust and worn-out fabric. Liam rubbed his palms together, trying to ease the cold that seeped into his bones. Midnight in a grocery store parking lot was not where he imagined he'd be at 38, but here he was, engine off to save fuel, headlights off to avoid attention, waiting for courage to show up and sit beside him. Another ping. He closed his eyes for a beat. Liam thought, please. Not again. But he already knew. He tapped the cracked phone screen. The email unfurled like a verdict. Your hours have been reduced pending algorithmic performance reevaluation. A sterile line. A line written by no human at all. His breath thinned. Reduced hours at the warehouse was corporate code for, we don't want to fire you, but we no longer intend to keep you. A quiet dismissal that made sure no one had to look him in the eyes. For a moment, all he heard was the ticking of the dashboard clock, slow, steady, unforgiving. Then, from somewhere deep inside his memory came another sound, a manager's voice. Measured. Detached. The algorithm has spoken. Liam. It's final. That voice always arrived with the echo of keyboard clacks, the dim hum of servers, the sterile chill of that tech office he once called home. Years ago, he had been a promising AI engineer at Orion. Not a superstar, but a steady, thoughtful someone who worried about the human cost behind every equation. Back then, he'd worked on a system meant to guide companies in managing their workforce. But the system had grown teeth. It had turned into something else, something far colder. He still remembered writing the memo that became a warning no one wanted to hear. Human context is not optional. A parent leaving early for a sick child is not a liability. Missing data should never be grounds for punishment. He wrote it because Eli had been in the hospital twice that month, breathing Battle's tubes, the constant beep-beep of monitors wrapping around Liam's heart. And Liam had left work early, and the algorithm had flagged him, and management had nodded at the numbers and let the numbers decide. His job vanished. His marriage cracked under bills and exhaustion. And now, years later, another algorithm, this time at a warehouse, not a tech empire, had quietly severed what was left of his security. The same pattern, the same silence, different building, same machinery. He let the phone fall against his chest as he leaned back in the seat. The rain outside softened, shifting from taps to small whispering streaks. The whole world felt like it was breathing around him, steady but indifferent. A new sound broke through the cheerful, uneven crackle of a voice message. Eli. His 12-year-old son's voice came through warm, bright, filled with the sincerity only kids carried. Dad, I put the wildflowers on the table for the woman you're meeting tonight. Don't cancel, okay, I think she might like you. A shaky breath escaped Liam. Flowers. He hadn't even remembered to buy any. Eli must have run outside after school boots, muddy shirt half-tucked, searching the patchy grass near their apartment for anything that looked remotely like kindness. He replayed the message once more. The boy's hope-filled tone pressed something deep inside him, a reminder that he didn't get to quit, not while Eli believed in things like wildflowers and second chances. The phone buzzed again. This time it was his sister. Liam. Listen, she said, voice brisk but caring. I signed you up for this blind date because you need one good thing this month. Wear whatever. Honestly, wear your ugliest shirt. If she judges you for how you look, we don't want her anyway. He looked down at himself, a faded gray t-shirt with thinning cotton at the seams, jeans frayed at one-knee shoes that had seen too many double shifts. He gave a dry laugh. If she bolts when she sees me, he thought I won't blame her. He glanced at the grocery store's automatic doors glass sliding open with a soft whoosh every time someone left with bags rustling. That sound grounded him somehow, reminded him the world kept moving. He lifted the visor mirror. The dim cabin light revealed tired eyes stubble he forgot to shave worry lines that hadn't been there a decade ago. But beneath all that was something steady, some small part of him that still refused to fold. "All right," he whispered to himself. "Let's just get through the night." He started the engine. The car shuddered, coughed, then settled. As he pulled away, a gust of wind brushed the frame almost like a quiet nudge to keep going. Across town, another world unfolded. The soundscape was entirely different. Sharp clicks of high-end heels on polished marble floors echoing conference room voices, the soft hum of projectors casting data into the air. A boardroom full of executives sat tense watching graphs climb and plummet on a massive screen. At the center of the storm stood Charlotte Keaton, though the world called her Charlie. CEO of Helios, 38. Sharp, decisive, impeccably composed. Reporters had named her the Algorithm Queen. But tonight the shine was cracking. "Our layoff optimization model has triggered public backlash," the CFO announced. Paper slid. Pens tapped. A single name flashed briefly across a slide labeled Ethics Complaints. Liam Ward. Charlie's breath caught just a fraction. No one noticed. Too many debates flying across the table. Profitability quarterly demands investor expectations. By the time the meeting adjourned, her ears rang with the metallic echo of responsibility, the kind that followed her like a second shadow. She headed toward the elevator when her friend from PR blocked her path. "You're coming with me," the woman insisted. "No arguments. You need a life outside data models." "A blind date," Charlie muttered. "Tonight?" "Yes. And for once dress like a normal human. No diamonds, no power armor." Which was how a billionaire who could sway markets with a signature found herself in jeans, a soft, button-down hair tied loosely stepping out of a sleek car across the street from a quiet bookshop cafe. A small bell chimed as someone pushed the cafe door open. Inside, Liam stepped in clothes worn posture humble, carrying a bouquet of imperfect wildflowers. Please, he thought, don't let tonight be a disaster. Across the street, Charlie closed her car door and started toward the same warm glow. She didn't know the man inside had once written a memo that could have saved thousands. He didn't know the woman walking toward him had signed the email that broke his life apart. And neither of them knew that within minutes everything they believed about love, forgiveness, and the human cost of an algorithm was about to collide. The bell above the cafe door chimed with a gentle old-fashioned ring soft enough to blend into the rustle of pages, the quiet notes of an espresso machine steaming milk, and the slow clink of ceramic cups touching saucers. Liam stepped inside, carrying a draft of cold air with him. The place smelled of paper-roasted beans and something faintly sweet like cinnamon warmed by lamplight. He cleared his throat, unsure if he belonged here. His faded t-shirt clung to his shoulders, still damp from the rain. The wildflowers Eli had arranged now sat in his hand, slightly crushed stems, bent but stubbornly colorful in their own imperfect way. A barista glanced up and smiled. Table for one, Liam hesitated. Maybe she's not coming, he thought. Maybe she took one look at the weather and decided it wasn't worth it. But the memory of Eli's voice nudged him forward. "Don't cancel, okay, Dad?" He scanned the room. Only a handful of people sat tucked between bookshelves and small wooden tables. The cafe had a gentle hum, pages turning spoons, stirring muffled conversations hovering like a warm cloud. And then she walked in. From the other side of the room, he didn't see a billionaire. He saw a woman dressed simply jeans, a soft shirt hair, loosely tied back steps unhurried. She paused just inside the door as the bell chimed again behind her, her eyes adjusting to the warm light. Her gaze swept the cafe once, twice, then landed on the man with the tired eyes, worn shirt, and flowers that looked as if a child had gathered them with love, but no technique. She smiled, gentle, sincere, without calculation. "Are you Liam?" she asked, walking toward him. Her voice surprised him. Not polished and corporate like he expected from someone working in tech, but warm, almost musical in the way it softened the edges of the moment. "Yes," he said, clearing his throat. "Sorry, I didn't really dress for impressing anyone." He gestured awkwardly to his shirt. She shook her head. "Good. I've met enough people trying to impress. Tonight I just wanted to meet someone real." Something loosened inside his chest. He pulled out a chair for her, uncertain, a little rusty at first-date etiquette, but she accepted with a grateful nod. As they sat, the ambience wrapped around them, the faint tapping of rain on the windows, the low hum of an old air vent, the subtle crackle from a small fireplace in the back. Perfect for talking, perfect for telling truths neither of them planned on sharing. "Do you come here often?" Charlie asked, trying to break the ice. Liam shook his head with a sheepish grin. "Not really. Coffee this good cost more than my car payment." She laughed a quiet, surprised sound. "Then I feel honored." He looked down at the wildflowers and pushed them slightly toward her. "My son picked these. He thinks I need help." She touched one of the petals carefully as if she were afraid to bruise it. "They're beautiful," she said softly. He didn't believe her, but the way she said it made him want to. They ordered simple drinks, he chose black coffee, she chose tea, and the conversation drifted toward work. Liam kept it surface level. "I work at a distribution warehouse," he said, "and do odd jobs, electrical small repairs. Whatever keeps the lights on." Charlie nodded. "That sounds like a lot of responsibility." "You could say that." He tried to smile. "What about you?" She hesitated only a moment. "Tech consulting. Mostly algorithms. It's complicated." He let the subject drop. He didn't want to look foolish talking about a field he'd once belonged to but now felt shut out from. And he didn't want pity from someone who seemed too kind to give it honestly. But the conversation somehow found its way to AI anyway. "You know," he said quietly, swirling the coffee in his cup, "I've had a rough history with algorithms deciding things for me. One pretty much ended my career." "Oh," Charlie kept her voice steady, but inside her pulse stumbled. "How so? I used to be in AI engineering, before everything fell apart." He exhaled slowly as if releasing a held breath. "My son, Eli, was sick a lot when he was younger. I'd leave early sometimes to take him to the hospital. The system flagged me as unreliable. No human ever asked why. It just judged." He tapped his chest lightly, and that judgment stuck. Charlie's fingers tightened around her teacup. She felt the heat seep into her palm, steadying her. Liam didn't notice her reaction. He was lost in the memory. The algorithm didn't see Eli struggling to breathe, he said. It only saw me clocking out early. His words hung in the air like a quiet indictment. Charlie swallowed carefully, quietly. He has no idea, she thought. No idea how close our worlds have already collided. A soft vibration rattled the table Liam's phone. An incoming video call. "It's my son," he said, embarrassed. "I should take it, he worries." "Please," she said. "I'd like to say hello." He blinked, surprised, but answered. "Hey, buddy." Eli's voice burst through the speaker with cheerful energy. "Dad. Did she like the flowers? Did she run away yet?" Charlie leaned closer with a laugh. "Not yet." Eli gasped theatrically. "She's still there, I am," she said, "and I hear you know how to pick excellent wildflowers." The boy grinned. "Do you know code?" Charlie felt a small sting of irony. A little. Enough to have caused trouble. Liam laughed, thinking she was joking. Charlie didn't correct him. When the call ended, she could feel the shift in him, subtle, hopeful, like someone opening a window after a long winter. But doubt still lingered in his voice. "You don't have to pretend," he said, "to want to see me again. Tonight is more than enough." She leaned forward, voice gentle but sure. "If you're not busy next week, there's a used bookstore I'd like to show you." His face softened. "I'd like that." The night could have ended peacefully, but the universe had already set the next conflict in motion. As Liam left the cafe, he tucked the leftover wildflowers into the tip jar with quiet gratitude. The bell chimed behind him. Across the room, Charlie's phone vibrated urgently. Urgent. Nighty Helios, lay off, roll out. Her eyes darkened, scanning the subject line. Her breath felt tighter, her heart heavier. So many lives about to be altered by a system she'd helped design. She looked at the wildflowers in the jar, fragile, imperfect, undeniably human. And she knew there were truths she still wasn't ready to speak aloud. For the next 2 weeks, the world around Liam shifted in ways so small and gentle that he almost didn't recognize them as hope. The soundscape of his life, once filled with warehouse alarms, coughing engines, and Eli's inhaler clicks, slowly made room for something softer. The rustle of pages as they browsed second-hand bookstores, the bustle of weekend flea markets, the laughter of children chasing each other in parking lots, the warm hiss of street vendors grilling food, and always the quiet steadiness of Charlie walking beside him. Their dates were modest, intentionally simple. Neither of them said it aloud, but both understood that honesty thrived in places where nothing sparkled except conversation. One Saturday morning, the air hummed with the rise and fall of distant cars as they strolled through a tiny neighborhood market. Vendors called out prices coins, clinked, children tugged parents toward toy stalls. Charlie carried a small paper cup of hot cider, warming her hands against the late autumn chill. "You two come here often?" she asked as Eli ran ahead examining a box of old radio parts. "Every chance we get," Liam said. "He loves taking things apart. Putting them back together is a skill we're working on." Charlie smiled. "He's bright. You can hear it in his voice." Liam nodded, watching Eli hold a broken circuit board up to the light. "Yeah, he's got that spark. I'm just trying not to let the world dim it." He hadn't meant to say that out loud, but Charlie didn't flinch at the honesty. She let it settle between them like a truth she wasn't afraid to hold. Later, as they sat with takeaway coffees on a park bench, Charlie gently nudged. "You mentioned once that you used to be in AI engineering, before the warehouse." He exhaled the sound heavy as though it carried years. "Yeah, a lifetime ago." "Will you tell me?" she asked. There was no pressure in her voice, only curiosity shaped by sincerity. And something else, a flicker of emotion she tried to hide. Guilt, recognition, fear of being recognized. But Liam couldn't see that yet. He ran his thumb around the rim of the coffee cup, collecting his thoughts. "I worked at a startup called Orion," he began. "Small team, big dreams. We wanted to build systems that helped companies make better decisions, fair decisions." "And you?" she asked. "I was the guy who kept reminding everyone that fairness wasn't optional." A faint laugh escaped him. "Annoying, right?" She shook her head, though he wasn't looking at her. "I wrote a memo," once he continued. "A warning. I said the system could only assist decisions, not replace them. That without human oversight it would misjudge things that weren't in the data." He paused, eyes following Eli across the park, like a parent leaving early for medical emergencies, or someone struggling because of an invisible crisis, or a person caring for a sick relative. Charlie's breath hitched quietly. Liam didn't notice. He kept talking. "We were supposed to include a safeguard, a human-in-the-loop requirement. But it disappeared somewhere between demos and deployment. Too many investors wanted to see automated efficiency, not messy human nuance." He laughed again, but this time there was no humor. "Guess who the system flagged first when it went live?" Yushi whispered. "Yep, me. The guy who built the warning the system ignored." His voice softened. "It said I lacked reliability, low synergy, high volatility. Fancy words for, you leave early because your son is sick." The park's ambient noise grew quieter around them. Children shouting, leaves rustling, dogs barking, all becoming muted, as though the world understood this was a moment that required listening. "My wife couldn't handle the pressure," Liam continued. "Bills piling up, jobs slipping through my fingers. She didn't say it outright, but losing the engineering job. It broke something in us. Charlie felt those words strike her like cold water, because she knew exactly where Orion's technology had gone. She knew exactly who had bought it. She knew exactly which executive had signed the M&A documents. And she had a sinking suspicion she'd once seen his name in an ethics complaint buried in a quarterly report. But she still didn't let herself believe it was him. Not yet. That night, after Liam and Eli went home, Charlie stepped into her penthouse and was greeted by silence, the expensive kind that echoed with the absence of people. Her heels clicked gently on the hardwood floor as she walked toward her office. When she sat at her desk, she typed a name into the internal archive system: Orion Acquisition. Ethics, Memos, Search Keyword Ward. The results loaded with a soft digital chime. A folder opened, a PDF appeared, and there it was. A document she hadn't seen in years, on Human Oversight in Automated Layoff Systems, by Liam Ward and team. Her heart thudded once hard. She scrolled, lines of code, flowcharts, warnings in bold text, and then buried in a chain of old emails the reply from her younger self. Ethical flags can slow negotiations. Let's remove them for now. We can reintroduce them later if clients ask. She closed her eyes, pressing her fingertips to her forehead. What have I done? The last piece clicked painfully into place. Liam didn't just suffer because of an indifferent world. He suffered because of a decision she had personally approved because she'd chosen profit over people long before she understood the consequences. She shut her laptop slowly as though closing the lid might muffle the truth. But the truth was already awake. The night the truth began to tighten around all three of them, Liam, Eli, and Charlie, didn't announce itself with drama. It arrived quietly like trouble often does, slipping in on the sound of shallow, uneven breathing. At 2:14 a.m., Liam jolted awake. He didn't need to open his eyes to know what was happening. He heard it, the soft, desperate squeal of air fighting its way through Eli's inflamed lungs. The sound was faint but unmistakable, a wet rasp that tightened the room around them. Dad. Eli's whisper cracked. I'm here, Liam said instantly, already reaching for the inhaler. The click of the device sounded sharp in the dim apartment. Eli took in 2 deep pumps, but the relief didn't come. His breathing grew faster, more strained. Not tonight, Liam thought. Please not like this again. The cheap box fan in the corner hummed uselessly as he gathered Eli into his arms, feeling the boy's ribs flutter with each shallow inhale. He grabbed his keys wallet and tossed on his jacket. Outside, the night air was damp and cold, carrying the faint smell of rain-soaked concrete. As he laid Eli gently in the passenger seat, he whispered, "Stay with me, buddy. I've got you." The car engine coughed awake, rattling like it disagreed with being asked to function at this hour. Liam backed out of the lot tires, rolling over gravel with a muted crunch. Every red light felt like a punishment. Every intersection seemed too long, too empty. Inside the car, all he could hear was Eli's tight, whistling breaths. Please, please let them help him this time. When they arrived at the clinic, the only one open this late in their insurance network, the glass door slid open with a mechanical sigh. The reception area smelled of disinfectant and stale coffee. A printer hummed quietly somewhere behind the desk. A tired receptionist glanced up. Insurance ID, Liam handed it over with trembling fingers. He hated how familiar this ritual had become. The receptionist typed each keystroke echoing in the nearly empty room. Then her expression stiffened. The system is flagging your profile. More typing. A soft error beep. It's marking you as high risk. High risk for what Liam asked, struggling to keep his voice calm as Eli wheezed beside him. She didn't look up. High financial risk. It means the system predicts you're likely unable to pay for the recommended medication. So, you'll need to prepay for the higher-grade bronchodilator. Liam blinked. He can't breathe. You want me to prepay? I'm sorry, sir. It's the system. I can't override it. She turned her monitor toward him. A graph glowed on the screen. A single red bar. A cold label across it. High risk. Payment failure likely. A number, not a boy. A prediction, not a person. Liam felt something hot rise in him. Not anger, but a kind of despair that scraped like metal in his throat. Does your machine see this? He lifted Eli gently, letting the boy's ragged breathing fill the space. Does it hear him choking? Does it know how many nights I stayed awake praying an ambulance wouldn't be necessary? The receptionist shrank back. I'm sorry, sir, but the system. The system? Liam repeated, voice breaking, doesn't know a damn thing about us. Across the clinic lobby, footsteps echoed heels at first, then softer as they slowed. Charlie had been touring the building earlier that night, visiting a pilot program where Helios software helped medical offices streamline risk assessment. She had stayed late, listening to technicians standing near servers humming behind glass. She hadn't expected to hear that voice. His voice. She turned the corner and saw them, Liam holding Eli, fear painted across every line of his posture, and the receptionist in a losing battle with the prediction algorithm. Charlie stepped back into the shadows before they could see her. Her thoughts raced, her heartbeat thudding in her ears like a warning drum. She took out her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. Helios Medical Integration Tech Supervisor speaking. It's Charlotte Keaton, she said quietly. I need an emergency manual override for patient case 77413C. Mark it as humanitarian exception. Effective immediately. The supervisor stammered. Ma'am, do you want a record of this? Yes, she said. Leave a record. Leave everything. It took less than 30 seconds. Suddenly, the receptionist's screen blinked. The red bar vanished. New text appeared. Approved. Override authorized reason. Humanitarian exception. The receptionist straightened. Sir, the medication is covered. Please follow me. Relief hit Liam so fast his knees nearly buckled. Eli was taken back, nurses moving with calm efficiency. The soft sounds of oxygen tubing, unspooling monitors chirping, and a nurse's steady voice filled the hallway. As Eli's breathing stabilized, color slowly returning to his cheeks, Liam exhaled a breath he felt he'd held for a year. Moments later, Charlie approached as though she were just another visitor leaving the building. Charlie Eli rasped with a tired smile. Hey, you're here. She knelt beside him. I told you I'd say hello if I saw you again. You're nicer than the machine, he said, trying to grin. It gave Dad a bad score. Something inside Charlie cracked at that, but she kept her voice steady. Machines don't know you like people do. Eli leaned back, eyelids heavy. Good, 'cause Dad's a good dad. Liam blinked, caught off guard. Thanks, bud. Charlie stood slowly. Her eyes drifted for a moment to the hallway where the override had saved a child's life, an override she had the power to grant because she also had the power to destroy. That contrast clung to her like cold air. Later that night in her office, she stared at the glowing Helios dashboard. Numbers, risk scores, predictions, lives reduced to pattern recognition. She closed the screen and opened a folder labeled Orion Acquisition. Liam's memo stared back at her, its warnings bold, urgent ignored. Her hand trembled as she whispered to the empty room. The problem was never the machine. It was us. The morning after Eli's close call dawned quietly, too quietly for Charlie Keaton. She sat alone in her penthouse office, blinds still closed, letting the muted hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of a designer wall clock fill the space. Usually, she liked mornings for their clarity. Today, they pressed against her ribs like a weight. On her desk lay a single stack of papers, freshly printed, still warm, edges crisp. The printer had spat them out at dawn, one sheet at a time, each page a relic she had avoided for years. Orion M&A Archive. Ethics Communications. She had requested the full chain, every memo, every internal email, every annotated comment thread about the acquisition. Now she stared at them, fingers hovering but not quite touching. Paper rustled softly as she turned the first page. There it was, Liam's warning. His tone in the memo was measured professional, but the anxiety pulsed beneath the words. Systems must not make termination recommendations without human review. Missing context data will disproportionately affect vulnerable groups' parents with medical emergencies, part-time caregivers, low-income families. He'd listed scenarios, real ones she'd brushed past in her rush toward scaling the tech for investors. Another line. A machine without oversight will punish the people least able to bear it. Charlie's throat tightened. She could almost hear his voice from their dates from the hospital lobby, gentle wounded, still carrying the weight of years he never should have lost. He had been right long before she ever admitted the possibility she could be wrong. She flipped to the next printed page. This one hurt. It was her own reply, 5 years younger, 5 years sharper, 5 years more enthralled by numbers than consequences. Ethical flags will complicate negotiations. Let's remove them until after the contract is secured. We can always add them back if requested. The words punched her gut. There it was, black and white. No excuses, no caveats, no buffer between intention and harm. She hadn't just contributed to the system that hurt him, she had lit the first match. Her hands trembled. She laid the pages down carefully as if they might burn her. I did this. I chose this. And he has no idea. A sharp buzz vibrated across the desk. Her phone. A message from her PR director. We have a problem, and you're trending. Charlie exhaled, bracing herself as she opened the link. A tech blogger had posted a grainy photo her and Liam at the bookstore cafe, leaning in, smiling. Beside it, a headline read, Algorithm Queen, seen with blue-collar date damage control or distraction. Her pulse ticked up. The article insinuated manipulation, questioned motives, speculated whether her newfound public empathy was strategically timed. Another notification appeared, news outlets, social chatter, investor concerns. Charlie closed her eyes. Liam didn't sign up for this. He doesn't even know who I am yet. Before she could think further, her phone buzzed again, this time a video call. Not PR, not investors. Someone infinitely more dangerous in this moment. The screen lit up with the smiling face of a 12-year-old boy framed by messy hair and a cluttered kitchen counter. Miss Charlie Eli exclaimed, Dad and I are making pancakes. Look behind him. Batter dripped from a whisk like wet cement. Liam's voice floated in from off-screen. Buddy, tilt the phone back. She doesn't need a tour of the sink. Too late. She saw it. The sink was overflowing with dishes, and in the background a tiny bouquet of wildflowers sat in a jar, the ones he'd rescued after their date, unable to throw them away. Her chest tightened. How are you feeling today? She asked. Good. The medicine worked fast. Eli grinned, then leaned closer. Dad says hi, but he's pretending he didn't hear me. Liam finally appeared, hair-tousled voice warm but cautious. Hey. Morning. She smiled softly. Morning. Their eyes met through the screen in a fleeting moment of ease, one she knew wouldn't last, because in the next breath his face changed. He glanced at his old TV in the background volume, low but recognizable. A news anchor's voice droned. Helios CEO Charlotte Keaton faces mounting criticism over automated layoffs. Eli turned his head. Dad. That's Miss Charlie on TV. Liam froze. Charlie's stomach dropped. He lifted the remote, turning up the sound. Not glaring, not angry, just confused. On screen, a photo of Charlie appeared. Sleek hair, polished stare, power stance, the opposite of the woman he thought he'd been getting to know. Eli blinked at the screen, then at her image in the video call. Wait. Miss Charlie is her. For one suspended heartbeat, none of them breathed. Charlie broke the silence. Liam. I can explain. I was going to tell you. But he was no longer looking at her through the screen. He was looking at the TV, at headlines tying her to scandals, layoffs, harsh algorithmic decisions. A quiet, wounded disbelief filled his eyes. "You work for Helios." His voice was barely above a whisper. She swallowed. I run Helios." Silence. Not the calm kind. The collapsing kind. Eli's wide eyes took up the whole frame. "Miss Charlie, you're a billionaire." Liam didn't say another word. He reached forward and gently ended the call. The screen went black. The silence afterward was absolute except for the faint hiss of Charlie's breath unsteadying in her chest. She sat frozen, the printed email staring up at her like evidence. Evidence of a truth she hadn't yet faced in front of the person who mattered most. Her phone buzzed again. PR messages board demands public scrutiny. But none of those mattered, because the one person who deserved the whole truth had just discovered the worst part of it without warning. The television's low murmur lingered in the apartment long after the news segment ended. Liam stood still, one hand resting on the counter, the other gripping the remote so tightly the plastic creaked. Eli watched him with wide, uncertain eyes, sensing something important had shifted, something heavy enough to bend the air around them. On the screen, images of Charlie rotated conference stages, shareholder meetings, the polished smile of a woman used to speaking in numbers that moved markets. But none of those faces matched the woman who had knelt beside Eli in a clinic hallway smoothing his hair. None matched the woman who smiled at wildflowers. None matched the woman who said, "Tonight, I just want to meet someone real." Liam swallowed hard, feeling his pulse throb at the base of his neck. She's the one behind all of this. The algorithm that took his first career, the cascading failures that ripped apart his marriage, the system that reduced him twice to an unreliable data point. Eli tugged his sleeve. "Dad, is Miss Charlie in trouble?" Liam forced his voice to stay steady. "Yeah, buddy, looks like she is." But trouble wasn't the right word. Truth was. That evening, rain swept through the city in steady sheets, tapping against windows and splashing off gutters in rhythmic pulses. Liam sent a message asking to talk, and Charlie agreed almost instantly, as if she'd been waiting for that moment with a mixture of dread and relief. They met in the parking lot behind the bookstore cafe, the first place they had smiled at each other. Tonight, the air smelled of wet asphalt and cold metal. Streetlights flickered through the rain, spilling pale reflections across puddles. Liam arrived first. His breath formed faint clouds as he exhaled, hands shoved into his jacket pockets. Charlie approached slowly, each step sounding soft and deliberate through the downpour. When she reached him, she spoke first, her voice barely audible above the rain. "Liam, I didn't lie to hurt you. You didn't lie." He laughed, bitter and disbelieving. "You let me sit across from you telling you how a system crushed my life while you—" His voice cracked. "You signed the contracts. You built the damn system." Her shoulders sagged as if the truth added physical weight. "I know, and I should have told you sooner." "Why didn't you?" he asked. The question wasn't sharp. It was raw, exhausted, full of a man who had carried too much alone for too long. She hesitated. Rain pattered against her coat, each drop like a small confession. "Because I didn't want to see what I'm seeing now." Her voice trembled. "The disappointment, the anger, the hurt I caused. I didn't want you to look at me and see the worst part of myself." Liam shook his head, rainwater sliding off his hair. "You think I care about your image, Charlie? I lost everything. I lost my work. My marriage cracked under the pressure. I watched Eli sleep hooked to machines while I read an email telling me I lacked reliability." His voice tightened. "An algorithm took my dignity. And you, whether you meant to or not, held the pen that signed off on it." Charlie didn't defend herself, didn't hide behind business jargon or shareholder pressure. She simply said, with the quiet honesty of someone standing at the edge of their own worst choice, "I was ambitious, and scared, and too willing to believe efficiency justified everything." The rain grew heavier, drumming on the metal awning overhead. "Say it plainly," Liam whispered. "Tell me the truth without the corporate filter." She met his eyes. I knew about the ethical risks, and I pushed them aside, because it made the deal easier. That was the moment the hurt deepened because she didn't sugarcoat it. Liam stepped back, chest tightening. Do you know what you sound like? The people who fired me the first time didn't bother explaining. They hid behind the system. But you're telling me you saw the danger and ignored it. She nodded, tears indistinguishable from the rain. I was wrong, and I've spent the last few years pretending I wasn't. But meeting you, seeing Eli, feeling the weight of what I helped create. She inhaled shakily. I can't pretend anymore. He stared at her, searching for the woman he'd begun to trust, the one who liked old bookstores and wildflowers and jokes about terrible coding choices. But right now, all he could see was the storm between them. I can accept being poor, Liam said quietly. I can accept working night shifts and odd jobs. I can accept my mistakes in my marriage. He swallowed. But what I can accept is becoming some redemption arc for you. I won't be part of your PR narrative or your guilt project. You're not, she whispered. You're more than that. And this isn't about PR. It's no. His voice cut through the rain. I won't let you use my pain to clean your conscience. Her breath caught at the word pain. It burned because she had caused it. It burned because she cared. He turned away. We're done here. But the night wasn't done with Charlie. Hours later, soaked and shivering in her office, she sat before a darkened screen. The Helios interface reflected faintly against the glass, a shallow glow pulsing like a dying star. Emails poured in. Urgent. Board meeting. Investor concerns. Layoff module profits. PR strategies. Containment messaging. Everything she used to respond to without hesitation. Now she stared at it as if it belonged to another life entirely. From instinct, or maybe desperation, she opened Liam's old memo again. Her own reply beneath it stared back with cruel clarity. We can put ethics back in later. Her stomach twisted. Her breath hitched. Her hand trembled as she whispered, no more later. With one steady inhale, she composed a new message, short, sharp, impossible to misinterpret. Subject board, emergency meeting, mandatory agenda, immediate shutdown of Helios layoff, module initiated by Charlotte Keaton. Her finger hovered for only a second before she pressed send. The soft swoosh sounded louder than thunder. The boardroom at Helios had always carried a particular sound, an almost theatrical hush, the quiet confidence of polished wealth and controlled power. But this morning, the silence felt sharper, charged with a tension thick enough to scrape against the skin. Papers rustled. Leather chairs creaked, and the dull hum of the projector cast a faint glow across the long table. Charlie stood at the far end, spine, straight palms flat on the surface before her. Every inch of her projected composure, but her heartbeat tapped wildly beneath her skin. Steady, insistent, reminding her she was alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. This room had witnessed product launches, acquisitions, mergers, triumphs. Today, it would witness something else entirely. The CFO, a man with a voice like polished steel, started the assault. Charlotte, we received your agenda. I hope shutdown is a typo. It isn't, she replied. A murmur rippled down the table. Sharp whispers, rustling jackets, the clink of a pen dropped unintentionally. The CFO lifted a report. Helios's layoff optimization module accounts for 1/3 of our recurring revenue. You're asking us to dismantle a golden pipeline. Charlie inhaled slowly. The room smelled faintly of coffee and tension. What I'm asking, she said, is that we stop letting an algorithm fire people without accountability. An older board member scoffed. The public backlash will cool. They always forget. You want to burn a billion-dollar product because of optics. No, Charlie answered. Because of ethics. That word dropped heavier than any financial figure. She tapped the screen behind her. The projector came to life with a soft whir, displaying case studies, blurred names, anonymized data stories of people wrongfully terminated due to gaps in context. A father caring for a disabled spouse, a young mother juggling 2 jobs, a warehouse worker flagged because his badge malfunctioned. These aren't glitches, Charlie said. They're consequences of decisions we made too quickly and warnings we ignored. The CFO frowned. Warnings from who Charlie hesitated for a breath too long. From engineers. From early-stage ethicists, she said carefully. From people who understood what we were building had limits. From Liam, her conscience added. From the man you hurt. She didn't speak that part aloud. Another board member flipped through paperwork. We passed regulatory audits, and we've met every legal requirement. That's the problem, Charlie replied quietly. We followed what was legal, not what was right. The room stiffened. A younger executive leaned forward, chin resting on steepled fingers. You're asking us to prioritize humanity over profit. That's not how corporations survive. Charlie met his gaze with a steadiness she didn't entirely feel. That's how people survive. Silence stretched. The air hummed with unspoken calculations, the friction between fear and responsibility. Then she delivered the blow she knew would snap the room in half. Effective. Today, I'm proposing we shut down the layoff module permanently. Not pause, not adjust. End it. The CFO slammed his hand onto the table. Charlotte, do you realize what that means? Stock value will drop. Shareholders will revolt. You may lose your position, I know, she said, and you're willing to sacrifice your entire career over a PR moment, a moment. Her voice tightened, then steadied. A child almost lost access to life-saving medication because a system labeled his father as financially unreliable. That's not a moment. That's a life. Her voice softened as she added, We don't get to hide behind numbers anymore. A cold wave of silence washed over the room. She could feel judgment, resentment, disbelief, like heat radiating from each seat. But something else glimmered too. A shift, a recognition. One of the oldest members, a retired labor rights attorney, spoke quietly. If we remove this module, what replaces it? Human oversight, Charlie answered. Real people making real decisions. And a new institute independent from Helios that will audit every major algorithm we build. She clicked again. A logo appeared on the screen. Human Loop Institute. A future where machines assist, not replace responsibility. A few board members stared. A few laughed under their breath. The CFO folded his arms. You're burning our most profitable product, he repeated. Charlie nodded. Good. It shouldn't have been profitable in the first place. No one moved. No one breathed. The hum of the projector grew louder, steady, unwavering. Then came the vote. Hands raised, some angry, some reluctant, some trembling, some resolute. When the tally appeared on the screen, a dull thud echoed in Charlie's chest. They had agreed. Barely, but enough. The layoff module would be shut down. Her chairmanship would be reviewed. Her leadership questioned. Her motives scrutinized. But the decision stood. She exhaled a long, shaky breath that felt like releasing years of compressed guilt. She didn't smile. There was nothing victorious about this moment. Only necessary. The press conference followed. Cameras clicked. Reporters murmured. The air buzzed with curiosity and skepticism. Charlie stood at the podium, a woman stripped of armor, no power pose, no rehearsed confidence. Just honesty. Years ago, she began. I made a decision that favored efficiency over humanity, and thousands of people paid the price. A ripple moved through the crowd. Today, we are shutting down the Helios layoff module. Not because we are forced to, not because it is popular, but because it is right. She paused, letting silence carry the weight of her words. And, beginning immediately, we are launching the Human Loop Institute, an independent body dedicated to ensuring AI exists to support human judgment, not replace it. Camera shutters snapped. Reporters whispered. Somewhere in the back, a worker advocate quietly nodded. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a start. That evening, after all the noise faded, Charlie stood alone outside Liam's apartment building. The hallway light flickered overhead, casting pale patches on the floor. She didn't knock. Instead, she bent down and gently slid an envelope under the door. On the front, in her own handwriting, for Liam Ward. If you ever want a seat at the table. Inside lay the signed shutdown order, and a handwritten letter she'd rewritten a dozen times. When she walked away, the hallway fell silent again except for the soft rustle of paper settling on the floor. The hallway outside Liam's apartment had been silent when Charlie slipped the envelope beneath his door. But when Liam discovered it just after dawn, silence was the last thing he felt. He had been heading out for his early warehouse shift keys, jingling in one hand, coffee in the other, when his foot brushed against something thin and crisp on the floor. He bent down, frowning. An envelope. Cream-colored. Unmistakably deliberate. His name was written across the front in handwriting he recognized immediately, steady, elegant strokes. The kind of handwriting belonging to someone who had signed too many contracts and too many lives. For Liam Ward, if you ever want a seat at the table. The message tightened something in his chest. His first instinct was to walk away, to leave it unopened, untouched, unacknowledged. But something faint inside him, something stubborn and painfully human, told him to pick it up. He carried it inside. The apartment still smelled of last night's leftover pasta. Eli snored softly in the bedroom, his breaths steady now that the crisis had passed. Liam sat at the small kitchen table, running a thumb over the envelope flap. "Don't do this," a voice inside him whispered. "Don't let her pull you into her world. Don't become part of her attempt at redemption." But another voice, a quieter one, countered, "What if this isn't about redemption? What if this is about responsibility, yours and hers?" He exhaled and opened the envelope. 2 items slid out. 1. A signed board resolution. Shutdown of Helios layoff module. Effective immediately. 2. A handwritten letter. He unfolded the letter with reluctant fingers. Liam, I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, and you owe me nothing. But I do owe you the truth. I read your memo from 5 years ago again last night. I read the reply. I wrote the one that tore the ethics flag from the system you tried to protect. I made choices that hurt people. Choices that hurt you. Today, I shut it down. Not to erase what happened. Not to win back public favor. But because you were right and I ignored you. Humans must stay in the loop. I'm building something new, something that exists to challenge the very systems I allowed to cause harm. The Human Loop Institute, an independent body that will look at every algorithm through the lens of real lives, not predictions. If you want a seat at the table, if you want to help build something that prevents what happened to you from happening to others, the door is open. Charlie Liam let the letter fall gently to the table. The paper made a soft, shushing sound as it settled. He sat still for a long time, hearing only the hum of the old refrigerator and the distant rumble of a garbage truck outside. His heart twisted with contradictory emotions, anger, fatigue, curiosity, and something else that terrified him more than anything. Possibility. He rubbed his face. "I'm not a symbol," he muttered. "I'm not some moral compass for her boardroom transformation." Yet the shutdown order was real. So was her admission. And the way she'd answered Eli's video call with patience and warmth, those moments weren't performance. He was still staring at the documents when Eli padded into the kitchen, eyes half open, hair sticking up in every direction. "What's that?" the boy asked, yawning. Something from Charlie Liam replied quietly. Eli climbed into the chair across from him, blinking. "Is she in trouble?" "Yeah," Liam said. "In trouble. Because she finally did the right thing." Eli tilted his head. Dad. Yeah, Bud. The boy pointed to the letter. Are you going to help her fix it? Liam felt his heart squeeze. I don't know. It's not my responsibility to fix her mistakes. But it's your responsibility to fix the system if you can, Eli said simply. You always tell me, if code hurts, people change the code. Liam's breath caught. Kids had a way of cutting through complicated things like they were knots made of paper. He looked again at the shutdown order. At the signature at the bottom, Charlie's name, written not with power, but with consequence. He closed the envelope, slid it into his jacket, and made a decision. The next morning, the Human Loop Institute buzzed with the kind of energy that occurs when brilliant people collide in the same room without yet knowing whether they're building something revolutionary or chaotic. The soundscape was rich muffled conversations, hurried footsteps, laptop keys clicking the ding of an elevator delivering more attendees. Voices carried accents from across departments, engineers, ethicists, sociologists, union reps. Liam stepped inside and paused. His heartbeat thudded with the uncertainty of a man walking into a world he'd once belonged to and now felt exiled from. A young engineer with neon blue glasses glanced at him. Are you lost? This is the Institute kickoff. I'm supposed to be here, Liam said, not fully believing it. The engineer shrugged and waved him in. Grab a seat. Things are about to get fiery. At the long conference table in the center, Charlie sat not at the head but among the group hands, folded posture humble. She looked different. Not small, not guilty, simply present. When she spotted Liam standing at the doorway, her breath caught. A flicker of hope crossed her face, quickly replaced with respect. She didn't stand, didn't rush. She simply nodded, offering him the seat beside her. He walked toward it, slowly aware of curious eyes following him. When he sat, the room settled into a new shape, one that felt inevitable. A young engineer, the same one with neon glasses, raised a hand. So, Mr. Ward, since you're new here, if you hate AI so much, why'd you show up? The room murmured, some amused, some awkward. Charlie tensed. Liam didn't. He leaned forward, voice quiet but unwavering. I don't hate machines, he said. I hate when people hide behind them so they don't have to take responsibility for the lives they impact. Silence fell like a stone dropped into still water. The engineer blinked. Someone exhaled sharply. Charlie closed her eyes for a second, letting the truth wash over the room. Liam continued. If I'm here, it's because someone needs to say out loud the things algorithms can't. And someone needs to make sure what happened to me doesn't happen again. The room shifted this time in respect. But just as Charlie opened her mouth to speak, a notification pinged across every laptop in the room. A system alert. Red priority. Helios board decision. Critical vote incoming. Layoff module revival proposal. The air tightened. Charlie's eyes snapped to Liam's. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The battle wasn't over. It was only beginning. The alert, flashing across every laptop screen, cast a red glow through the conference room, washing over faces already tense with uncertainty. A quiet ripple moved through the crowd, engineers shifting in their seats, ethicists leaning forward, union representatives whispering among themselves. A young analyst read aloud, voice shaky, Helios board. Notice a major client refuses to renew unless the layoff module remains active. Emergency vote scheduled. Revival possible. Revival. The word landed like a stone dropped into the center of the room. Charlie's heart clenched. She had known backlash was inevitable, but she hadn't expected it to come this fast or this mercilessly. Before she could speak, all eyes turned to Liam. The young engineer who had challenged him earlier crossed his arms. Well, Mr. Ward, looks like all your speeches may not matter after all. Liam took a breath, slow and steady, letting the hum of the HVAC, the shuffle of papers, and the faint tapping of keyboard keys anchor him. He thought of Eli in the hospital. He thought of the memo he wrote years ago. He thought of his life narrowed by a machine that didn't even know his name. He raised his head. "I never said I was against AI," he began. "I'm against the way people use it to dodge responsibility." His voice was calm, too calm, which made everyone listen harder. "In my old job," he continued, "the system didn't fire me. My managers hid behind it so they didn't have to look me in the eyes. That's the part that hurts. Not the math, not the code." A few people nodded. Liam leaned forward, fingers laced, grounding himself. "I'm not here to destroy technology. I'm here because someone needs to demand accountability. Machines don't choose cruelty. People do." That sentence landed like a spark in dry grass. Charlie felt the room shift, not in a dramatic wave, but in a subtle, undeniable pull. Her eyes softened. She had never been prouder of a sentence spoken that wasn't hers. Another ethicist raised a hand. "So, what do you propose, Mr. Ward?" He wasn't used to being asked. Not really, but the sincerity in the room was real. "What we build isn't the problem," Liam said. "What we allow it to do is, every system needs a human in the loop, a grievance path that makes sense, and a requirement that someone with a name signs off on major decisions." He tapped the table lightly. "If a machine recommends firing someone, a human should be brave enough to stand behind the decision." The room fell utterly silent. Then, unexpectedly, the neon glasses engineer whispered, "Damn." "He's right." Charlie had to exhale slowly to steady herself. The conversation then fractured into passionate debates flowing overlapping, rising in emotional pitch. Engineers argued feasibility. Labor reps demanded equity. Tech leads threw out scenarios. Ethicists tried to find balance. Amid the whirlwind, Liam spoke with a clarity born of lived experience rather than theory. Every story he told about missed hospital shifts, unread warnings nights on the edge of rent due, tightened the faces around him into expressions of sober understanding. He wasn't just advising. He was reminding them whom they served. And then, just as momentum started to build toward something hopeful, the door slammed open. Helios's CFO stepped inside. His presence alone chilled the room. His tone was clipped impatient, carrying the unmistakable weight of corporate authority. "Charlotte," he said, eyes locked on her. "Emergency board session is in 40 minutes. The client wants the layoff module reinstated as is. No adjustments, no oversight. Your shutdown has triggered panic." Charlie felt the edges of the room tilt slightly, but her voice held steady. "We're not reinstating it." "You don't have the votes to block it," he replied. "The board is leaning heavily toward revival." "And the ethics?" she asked. He shrugged. "Ethics aren't on the agenda." Charlie inhaled sharply, a mix of fury and disbelief threading her breath. She stood. "I'll be there. And so will my proposal." She started toward the door, but the CFO stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Let me give you some advice," he said. "These people," he motioned loosely around the room, "aren't thinking like shareholders. You are risking everything for sentiment." Liam rose from his chair. "Sentiment," he repeated. "Is that what you call someone losing their livelihood because a machine misinterpreted a pattern?" The CFO's eyes sharpened. "I call it business." The word cut through the room like a blade. Liam took one step forward. "Then maybe business needs to change." The CFO scoffed. "Who are you? A warehouse worker? A former engineer who couldn't keep up? You don't understand what it takes to keep a corporation alive." Liam's posture didn't break. A corporation isn't alive. People are. A murmur of agreement spread through the room. Charlie watched the exchange with something fierce burning in her chest. Admiration, sorrow, pride, grief, all tangled together. The CFO straightened his tie. "Charlotte, this revival vote is happening. The board expects you to fall in line. Think very carefully about your speech." She lifted her chin. "I already have." He left without another word. The door clicked shut. A heavy silence settled, punctuated only by the soft whir of the projector's fan. Liam turned to her. "They're really going to bring it back." "Not if I can stop it," Charlie said. "You'll be going up against your own investors. I've done it before, just never with as much at stake." A young engineer stood. "If they revive that module, everything we're building here is pointless." An ethicist chimed in. "We need a strategy." Charlie faced the room. "I'll handle the board, but I need the Institute to prepare a counter-argument data case studies projections of harm. If we lose, this becomes public." Loudly. Liam nodded, feeling the charge of something larger than all of them sparking in the air. She stepped closer to him, voice low. "I'm glad you came today." He held her gaze. "I didn't come for you. I came because someone has to stand up." She nodded. "Then stand with me." Before he could answer, the building's overhead speakers chimed an intercom tone that meant only one thing: "Charlotte Keaton, please proceed to the boardroom." The hallway lights flickered. The tension in the air thickened. The Institute members gathered their notes. The CFO's warning echoed in Charlie's mind. But none of it mattered. Because she wasn't walking into that boardroom alone anymore, not in spirit, not in purpose. She walked out with her shoulders squared, the shutdown order in her hand, and the weight of something she hadn't felt in years. Conviction. The boardroom of Helios had never been louder in its silence. The heavy double doors closed behind Charlie with a muted thunk, sealing her inside with 12 people whose expressions ranged from nervous to openly hostile. The soft hum of the overhead lights mingled with the barely audible scratch of pens and the rustle of suits settling into place. Her shutdown order lay in her hands, a thin stack of paper that suddenly felt heavier than steel. "Let's begin," the chairman said, tapping his pen once against the table. Tap. A small, crisp sound that echoed like a countdown. Charlie stood at the front, facing the group who had once celebrated her as the visionary behind their most profitable technology. Now she felt the weight of 12 pairs of eyes assessing her not as a leader, but as a liability. "As you all know," the chairman continued, "a major client is threatening to withdraw unless the layoff module is reinstated. Today, we vote on whether to revive it." A murmur rose. Pages flipped. A glass clinked faintly. "And before we vote," the chairman added, "Ms. Keaton has requested to speak." Charlie stepped forward. She inhaled, hearing the soft buzz of the projector warming behind her like a distant engine. 5 years ago, she began, her voice steady, "we made a decision that increased profits but compromised our values." A few board members shifted uncomfortably. The CFO stiffened. "We approved a system that could evaluate employees without understanding them. A system that labeled people as burdens based on patterns without stories, data without context." She clicked the projector remote. Photos appeared, blurred faces, anonymized profiles. Workers fired weeks after losing spouses. Parents terminated while caring for sick children. Veterans misclassified as unreliable because of PTSD appointments. These are the people behind the percentages, she continued. Not outliers, not exceptions, just unseen. The CFO leaned forward. "Charlotte, with respect, the system works as designed. If clients misuse it, that's on them." "No," she said softly. "It's on us. We built it. We licensed it. We defended it." She clicked again. The final slide appeared, a short quote from an internal memo. "A machine without oversight will punish the people least able to bear it." Her throat tightened. She didn't read the author's name aloud, but she didn't have to. She felt his words in her bones. "This memo was written by someone who understood the consequences long before I did," she said quietly. "Someone I ignored." A hush swept the room. And today, Charlie continued, voice gathering strength, we face a choice. Not between profit and loss, but between cowardice and courage. The CFO scoffed under his breath. "Spare us the morality play. Our responsibility is to shareholders. Our responsibility," Charlie said, "is to humanity." A few board members blinked, startled. That was not a line from a script. That came from something raw, something earned through loss and reckoning. You stand to lose millions, one board member warned. Yes, she agreed. But if we revive the module, we stand to lose our integrity. And once that's gone, nothing we build is worth anything. Her voice softened, almost breaking. I'm not making this stand because it's easy. I'm making it because I helped create this harm. And now, I'm choosing to stop it. A long, tense silence followed. Then came the vote. One by one, hands rose. Some instantly, some reluctantly, some only after long, painful pauses. When the chairman tallied the votes, his expression shifted from surprise to resignation. The motion to revive the layoff module fails. Charlie exhaled shakily. The room blurred for a second as relief washed over her like warm light through a cracked window. But the victory was muted. However, the chairman added sharply, your position as CEO will be under review. Many shareholders are displeased, and this stunt will cost us heavily. Charlie nodded. She expected as much. If my job is the price of doing what's right, I will accept that. The meeting adjourned with chairs scraping, murmured arguments breaking out across the polished floor, and the CFO storming out without looking at her. But Charlie didn't stay to celebrate or defend her leadership. She walked straight out of the building, past the glass doors, into the cool afternoon air. She went to the only place she felt the truth mattered more than the optics. The bell above the old bookstore cafe chimed softly as she entered. The room was quiet, only a few readers nestled in corners, pages turning gently like whispers. At a small wooden table near the back, Liam stood holding a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. The book they had once picked up together without realizing how symbolic it would become. He looked up when she approached. His expression wasn't warm, not yet, but it wasn't closed either. It was waiting. You came, Charlie said, voice low. I figured we should finish the conversation you tried to start, he replied. She sat across from him, hands folded on the table. The soft clinks of mugs around them formed a kind of background heartbeat. I shut it down, she said. The module. It's gone. Officially, I saw Liam replied. The news says the board nearly revolted. They still might. She gave a small, tired laugh. But I couldn't keep leading a system I didn't believe in. He watched her for a long moment. Then he asked the question she feared most. Why tell me now? Because you deserved to know before the world did, she said. And because what you said hurt. But it was true. The room felt still. The crackling fireplace in the corner hummed a soft warmth that filled the quiet. I can't undo what happened to you, she said, voice trembling. I can only try to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. Liam leaned back, absorbing the confession. He could hear the sincerity in her voice. He could hear how much she had changed. Finally, he spoke. I didn't want to be a symbol for your redemption. You're not, she said. You're my reminder of what matters. And if you walk away today, I'll still keep fixing this. Not for PR, not for praise. She swallowed. For you. For Eli. For everyone we didn't protect. Something shifted in Liam's expression, not forgiveness, but understanding. He exhaled slowly. So, where do we go from here? Charlie gave a tentative, hopeful smile. Wherever you want, but if we try again, it has to be as equals. Not CEO and victim, just Charlie and Liam. For the first time since he'd learned the truth, Liam's shoulders eased. Yeah, he said quietly. We can start there. Just then, the door chimed again. Eli burst inside, eyes bright, cheeks flushed. He saw them sitting close together and frowned with exaggerated suspicion. So, he said, crossing his arms, are you two dating again? Or just debugging? They both laughed too loudly, too freely surprised by how good it felt. Outside, the world waited with its noise and troubles. Inside, something mended. The high school gym buzzed with the soft, uneven sounds of a community gathering chairs, scraping families murmuring a distant microphone crackling as someone adjusted the volume. It was the sort of everyday noise most people tuned out, but for Liam, it felt like the sweetest soundtrack to a life slowly stitching itself back together. Eli stood near the small stage, fidgeting with the corner of a poster board. He wasn't nervous, exactly, more like electrically alive the way he always was before sharing something he believed in. The hum of the audience felt louder in his ears than usual. Beside him, Charlie leaned down and whispered something encouraging. Her voice was quiet, warm, steady, an anchor more than a sound. Liam watched them from the folding chairs in the front row, letting the scene settle into his chest like a memory he'd want to revisit one day. He still wasn't used to sitting this close to the moment his sun shined. He had missed so much in the years he spent scrambling to stay afloat. But tonight, he wasn't scrambling. He wasn't drowning. He was simply here. The principal tapped the microphone. A soft pop echoed. "All right, everyone," she said. "Next up, we have a project that, well, I'll be honest, made my brain hurt in the best way. Please welcome Eli Ward." Applause swelled warm, genuine. Liam felt his throat tighten. Eli stepped up, clearing his voice into the mic. "Hi. My project is called A System That Doesn't Forget People Feel Pain." A ripple of surprised laughter passed through the room, gentle and impressed. He continued. "A lot of algorithms make decisions really fast, sometimes faster than anyone can stop them. But machines don't feel fear or worry or hope. People do. So my project tries to fix that." He tapped his poster with a pointer. The board squeaked lightly. If a computer wants to make a big decision, like about someone's job or health care, it has to show the decision to a real person. And that person has to sign their name. They have to say, "I take responsibility." A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. Eli glanced toward Liam and Charlie. Liam nodded a quiet encouragement. Charlie smiled, a small proud shaken in the way only truth could shake her. The boy went on, voice steadying as his confidence grew. "And if someone doesn't understand why the machine rated them a certain way, there's a button that explains it in plain English. No confusing graphs, no secret math, just understanding." He ended with a simple line, one that silenced the room with its earnestness, because no one should feel invisible. When applause rose again, louder, fuller, Charlie brushed a quiet breath from her lips. Liam clapped until his palms stung, but even then the feeling inside him was softer, deeper, impossible to put into words. Eli bowed, sheepish but delighted, and joined them in the audience. He squeezed Liam's hand, then Charlie's, then both together as if that combination felt natural now. Later, after the science fair wrapped up and families drifted home, Liam, Charlie, and Eli walked out into the cool evening. Crickets hummed in the grass. A dog barked somewhere far away. The world sounded alive again. "What did you think?" Eli asked, swinging his backpack. "You were brilliant," Charlie said. "You were more than brilliant," Liam added. "You were honest." Eli shrugged, pretending he wasn't glowing under the praise. "Well, you guys helped. You taught me everything." Liam laughed. "Kiddo, I didn't teach you half of what you already know." Charlie's smile softened. "You're changing the world, Eli. One idea at a time." The boy grinned, then dashed ahead toward a patch of wild grass by the parking lot. "I'll grab flowers," he shouted. Wildflowers. The same kind he once picked for Liam's blind date. The same kind Liam had carried awkwardly hopefully on the night everything quietly began. Charlie and Liam stood side by side listening to Eli rustling through tall stems. The sound of laughter drifted back toward them on the breeze. "He's doing well," Charlie said quietly. "Yeah," Liam replied. He really is." A pause settled, peaceful, not uncertain. "You've done good work, too," he added. "The Institute is something real, something that matters." She exhaled softly as if releasing a breath she had held for months. "Some days, I still think I'm one vote away from losing my job." "Maybe," Liam said. "But you're 1,000 steps closer to earning your legacy." For a moment, the only sound between them was the chirp of insects and Eli's distant humming. Charlie turned toward him. "Liam, there are still things I don't get right, things I stumble through. I'm still learning how to lead without hiding behind numbers." "Well," he said, smiling gently, "I'm still learning how to live without expecting the worst email every morning." A quiet laugh escaped her, surprised grateful. "So, we're just two work-in-progress adults. Is that the official definition?" "Seems accurate," he said. Eli returned then, arms full of flowers, some bent, some crooked, some impossibly bright in the fading light. "These are for both of you," he announced, "because you guys don't look sad anymore." Liam took them first, the stems cool against his fingers. Then he passed half to Charlie. Their hands brushed light, familiar, tentative, but no longer afraid. Charlie's voice lowered. "You know, for everything we faced, everything we broke and rebuilt." She inhaled, hearing the wind shift. "I'm glad we found our way back." Liam held her gaze. "Me too, and not because it fixes the past, but because it gives the future a chance." Her eyes warmed, not the polished, confident gaze of a CEO, but the gentle, unguarded one she saved for moments like this. They walked toward the car, the three of them moving as if they had been doing so for years rather than months. On the quiet street, a TV played faintly through someone's open window, and in today's report, the Human Loop Institute is being recognized as a new industry gold standard. Charlie paused, listening. Liam glanced sideways. "You hear that," he said. She nodded. "We're not done yet." "No," he agreed softly. "But this time, we're doing it right." Eli tugged their sleeves. "Come on, you two. Pizza's getting cold." They laughed and followed him, steps falling easily into sync. As they reached the car, Charlie whispered half to herself, half to the man beside her. "In the end, algorithms only make suggestions." But people, Liam finished, decide who they want to be. The door clicked shut. The engine hummed to life. Three voices, one deep, one soft, one still young, blended into the small space together. And somewhere between the road ahead and the warmth in their shared silence, something settled. Not perfection. Not resolution. But responsibility. And love. And the courage to stand behind both. Before we close tonight's story, I want to leave you with a gentle reminder. In a world driven by algorithms and endless decisions made far above our heads, it's easy to forget the simplest truth: we still have the power to choose compassion. Liam's journey reminds us that no number, no label, no prediction defines a human life. And Charlie's transformation shows that courage isn't about never making mistakes. It's about owning them, repairing them, and walking forward with humility and heart. Maybe you've lived through something similar. Maybe you've watched someone lose a job, lose hope, or be dismissed by a system that never learned their name. Maybe you have been the one who had to stand up and say, "No more. This isn't right." If you've ever witnessed a moment like that or lived one, I'd love for you to share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it tonight. And before you go, tell me, where are you listening from? I always love seeing our community gather from every corner of the world. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or simply made you think a little deeper, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of hope, healing, and second chances. Thank you truly for spending your time with me today. Your presence, your comments, and your support make these stories worth telling. Until the next chapter, take good care of yourself and take good care of each other.